Hello, this is @TeachSmith. I just wanted to say thank you again for the increasing support, and I wanted to return to the power and conflict poetry, specifically how to compare poems, but this time with a different system. Top tip 1. The title is a quotation. So take for example, exposure. Exposing the truth about war, exposing the harsh reality of war, but also exposure to the elements. Because remember, in exposure, the weather is the real enemy. And in the exam, even though you have only one full poem in front of you, you have a list of all the power and conflict poems. So look at that list when you have to pick a comparison poem and think, what title can I use and what poem do I know the best that will compare to the poem in front of me? Top tip 2. Starting your poetry essay, you can almost use this formula every time. This will not limit you if you then go into a critical conceptual response if you are someone who's a grade 7 to 9 student. However, it just settles you down and gets you going. So both named poem, so say for example the poem in front of you is exposure, and chosen poem, the chosen poem might be Remains or Bayonet Charge, are about the realities of war. That might be the question focus. However, then you talk about the differences. So this sentence you can just use for any poetry comparison essay. What method then am I talking about? What is this little teaser picture about? So I found this picture online and I thought, how can I use this for comparing poems? How can I use it? So I've chosen Exposure, Bayonet Charge, Charge of the Light Brigade, Remains, Poppies and War Photographer. You can pause the video now and try and put these poems in yourself, and I will leave resources to download in the description. Now again, you can think about why have I put these poems next to each other. So what I've done, instead of writing in the little kind of leaf shaped overlaps, which would just look very, very small and rubbish, I have color coded them. So comparison ideas. Hopefully with this color coding, perhaps now it kind of makes sense, and I think I might add a time code. So Poppies and War Photographer explore the idea of painful memories. A mother losing a child, a war photographer looking at these photos that he's developing. So the yellow. Both War Photographer and Remains explore painful memories as well. Both are unafraid to explore graphic images of war, graphic images of violence. Also the damaging effects of seeing such graphic violence, essentially PTSD. There's a strong suggestion in both War Photographer and Remains that there is ideas of PTSD. So blue, Remains and Exposure. Again, graphic images of war, exposure, the frozen bodies, men trapped in barbed wire, or is it just the wind? Remains, the looter chopped in half by bullets. Both are unromantic about war. Exposure, that weather will kill you, and Remains, that shooting people is not a glamorous or fun thing in the slightest. Green. Both Exposure and Bayonet Charge again show the harsh realities of war. Also, the soldiers in both poems are very disorientated and frightened. Okay, Exposure, the darkness is punctuated by flares, there's silence, suddenly there's bullets. It's all very confusing, disorientating and frightening. In Bayonet Charge, the soldier is raw, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's suddenly made to run towards the enemy. Purple. Both Bayonet Charge and Charge of the Light Brigade describe a charge at the enemy. Both are quite brutal in their descriptions of war. Okay, Bayonet Charge, again, the sweating and the fear and the bullets smacking the belly of the air, and Charge of the Light Brigade, into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell, smoke and shell, volleyed and thundered, noble 600. However, you can talk about differences, and patriotism is a big difference. And finally, black. So both Charge of the Light Brigade and Poppies remember fallen soldiers. Charge of the Light Brigade was written to remember the 600. Okay, Poppies talks about wearing a poppy on Remembrance Day. It talks about a cenotaph, or a memorial to fallen soldiers. It's about remembering them in very, very different ways. And also both poems talk about bravery. You've got the bravery of the soldiers in Charge of the Light Brigade, and you've got the bravery of the mother trying to deal with grief and of the son trying to go off to war. So I sincerely hope that comparison method has been useful. Please like and subscribe if this has been useful. This has been Teach Smith. Thank you for watching.